Hello and welcome to our reviews. Today we'll be reviewing the DC Collectibles Oliver Queen and Deathstroke 2-pack. So yes, here we have Oliver Queen and Deathstroke from the show Arrow, which is really good if you haven't watched it. These are pretty well articulated. They're doing the new decent articulation for DC Collectibles, so that's nice. Come with lots of accessories and are pretty good representations of the TV show. So let's go ahead and zoom into the articulation, scope paint details, all those sorts of things. Alright, starting with a quick size comparison. Here we have Oliver Queen and Deathstroke from this 2-pack. Then here is the DC Collectibles Deathstroke, which is a brilliant figure. If you haven't seen it, I have a review of it up, and it's totally worth getting, and it's better than this Deathstroke. Not that this Deathstroke is bad, it's just not as good as this really, really cool one right here. And, of course, over here is a standard 6-inch Marvel Legends-size Superior Spider-Man and 3 3/4-inch Marvel Universe Wolverine. These figures are closer to 7 inches, so they don't really quite fit in with Marvel Legends. You might could make it work, but it's not really the same scale. Anyway, let's get all the other stuff out of here and just look at Oliver Queen and Deathstroke. Alright, moving on to our 360 spins. We'll start off with Oliver Queen. As you can see, his outfit is mostly a very dark green. He has some sort of lighter green line work on his lower legs, as well as some black boots down there. He has some straps on his legs. He has a little quiver of tiny arrows on his waist and a regular size quiver on his back, which you can put his accessory arrows in. He has another tiny little set of arrows on his wrist. He has a little bit of line work and strapping on his chest. He has 2 hands equipped right now, one of which is for holding the bow, and the other one is for holding the arrow and the string of the bow. He comes with 2 other hands that we'll look at later on. And that is pretty much the extent of his body detail. Everything looks pretty good. I think it looks almost exactly like his outfit does in the show, so that seems pretty good. Now let's go ahead and zoom in on his head sculpt. Zooming in on Ollie's head sculpt, as you can see, he's got his green hood up there. It is a pliable material, and I'm going to fold it back in a bit so you can get a little bit of a better look at his head sculpt, but most of the time I'm sure you're going to have him displayed with the hood up, because it doesn't really fold back in a visually pleasing looking way. Alright, here he is with his hood folded back. You can see the head sculpt a lot better now. He does have fully sculpted hair. Everything looks the way it would as if he didn't have a hood, so they didn't skip out on anything. He does have the paint across his eyes. This is before he got his little eye mask that he's using now. The facial hair all looks to be sculpted and painted fairly nicely. The likeness it's a decent resemblance. It's not spot on or anything, but I can see a resemblance there. And overall, I think it's a pretty good head sculpt. I have no real issues with it. Now let's zoom out and take a look at some articulation. Alright, moving on to articulation. Ollie is pretty good. He's almost got the same points as Deathstroke, although Deathstroke is a little bit more articulated. He has a ball peg in the head, which moves up and down and rotates. Of course, the hood doesn't move, so it causes a bit of a problem. You can't really get him looking to the side very well, because he's looking into the hood. At certain angles it works, but it's hard to do hoods properly without causing some issues. It's fine, I don't have any huge issues with it. Ball joint shoulders, in and out, forward and back. Ball joint elbows, rotate and hinge. He has a hinge and cut. On this wrist, the hinge goes in and out, and on the other wrist it goes up and down. He has a diaphragm joint, which pretty much just functions as a cut. It doesn't really move forward and back or side to side enough to matter. He has the DC-UC style hinge hips that go in and out and forward and back. Ball joint knees that rotate and hinge in and out. Then he has hinge and pivot in the ankles, as well as a boot cut. So, like I said, articulation's pretty good. Get him into quite a lot of poses. So, that is all very good. Now let's take a look at Ollie's accessories. Alright, moving on to Ollie's accessories. He's got his bow, 2 loose arrows, a bundle of arrows, and some extra hands. I am incredibly happy with his bow in that they actually used a string for it. I've been getting a lot of figures with bows that use just pieces of plastic that don't work like strings, and I'm very happy to have a bow that actually has a string on it, so that's very nice. It's a nice little elastic string. You can pull it back. It all looks very nice. Also, this is the older version of his bow, I believe. It's silver, and it has some very ornate stuff on the handguard handle bits of it. And it just has that black string there. He has 2 arrows. They have green heads and green and yellow fletchings. The bundle is to put in his quiver on his back, and it's just a bunch of arrows sculpted together. Then his 2 fists are just like his normal hands, except in fists. One of them is an up and down hinge, and the other one is a side-to-side hinge. And here Ollie is holding his bow. See, the string pulls back. His arms could be a bit more flexible and it'd help with bow posing, but you can get him in a reasonable bow pose. And he's got his arrows in his quiver back there, and all that kind of stuff. You can also put his bow on his back if you so desire. That wraps it up for all of Oliver's stuff and all of him, so let's move on to Deathstroke. Alright, moving on to our 360 spin of Deathstroke. As you can see, his outfit is mostly black. It has matte parts and glossed parts. He has a little bandolier of grenades around his chest, which also holds his sword sheath on his back. He has another holster for his gun on his hip. And then he has a little holster down there on his boot for his knife. Apart from that, he's mostly just black. He has a lot of nice sculpted detail in there, but none of it's especially interesting. Just padding and armoring and things like that. Nothing too standoutish, but it is essentially what he looked like in the show before he changed outfits. That about does it for the body detail, so let's move on to the head sculpt. Alright, zooming in on Deathstroke's head sculpt, as you can see, it is sliced down the middle, black on one side, orange on the other side. He does have eyes painted in both eye sockets, as he hadn't lost one of his eyes yet. They are red, strangely enough. I don't know why. I don't remember them specifically being red in the show. They might have been. If they are, he must have been wearing contacts or something. You can see some of the details of the face underneath the mask, and also part of that's just the way the mask is sculpted anyway. Turn the head to the side, you can see some ear stuff on the side, things like that. Overall, it looks pretty much exactly like this version of the mask did in the show, so I have no issues with it whatsoever. Now let's zoom out and look at some articulation. Alright, moving on to Deathstroke's articulation. Like I said earlier, it's fairly similar to Oliver's, but it's also a little bit better. He also has the ball peg head, up and down, side to side, tilting, all that stuff. Actually really get the full motion with him. All joint shoulders, in and out. Forward and back, he has a bicep cut, single joint elbow, wrist rotation, and both of his wrists hinge up and down. He has a diaphragm joint, which rotates, bends in and out, side to side a little bit more than Oliver's, but still not very useful. Once again, DCUC style hips, in and out, forward and back. He has upper thigh cut, he has double jointed knees, and then he has hinge and pivot in the ankle. So, like I said, a little bit better than Oliver, especially the double jointed knees. But, yeah, really good articulation. Get him into most poses that you would really need to. Now let's take a look at Deathstroke's accessories. Alright, here are all of Deathstroke's accessories. He's got his grenade holder and sheath that you can get off of his back if you so desire. That's why I decided to put it with the accessories as well as just showing it on the figure. He has a combat knife, he's got his sword, he's got a pistol, and he's got a machine gun. The pistol seems to be pretty much just all black. The sword and knife are both silver and black. The sword has some pretty nice detail to it. The machine gun is sort of a bronzish color and black, and it looks pretty good. And then you've already seen the little bandolier that goes around his chest that has little grenades on it. And of course the sword fits in that sheath on the back. And here Deathstroke is with all of his things in their designated storage spaces. Sword back there, pistol there, knife there. He's got his bandolier back on, and you can actually take this gun and sort of stick it into the back strap there, and it will hang on his back. And I think that works pretty well if you want a storage space for it. And of course, his hands are both meant to hold pretty much all of these items. That about wraps it up for Deathstroke and all of his accessories. We've already looked at everything related to Oliver, so we can move on to the packaging. Alright, moving on to the packaging. As you can see, it's a big white box. Got a big nice window there in the front, based on the hit CW TV show Arrow action figure 2-pack. On the side over here, it says Oliver Queen and Deathstroke. And then on the back, you get a picture of the figures based on the hit show seen only on the CW. And then you've got a big picture of Oliver Queen from the show and a description of the show in case you don't know what it is. So, yeah, as with most windowed boxes, this is good for in or out of package display. So, yeah, Oliver Queen and Deathstroke. Alright, that wraps it up for Ollie and, of course, Deathstroke. So until next time, goodbye!
Hello, you've just watched one of my videos. Feel free to like, comment, and subscribe if you enjoyed my videos. If you didn't, run away and never return. Also, feel free to check out my other channels, Venom Raptor for all my variety gaming content, and VR Reviews for reviews of various action figures and collectibles. Thank you, and goodbye.